So, hello, students. This is Dr. Shyaonti Talwar, and I'm back again with the session which I intend to conduct on a poem which is called O Captain, My Captain, written by Walt Whitman. So, we'll be following the pattern and the format which we have always followed. Uh, we'll get to know a little about the poet, then the context of the poem. Then we will look at the poem by trying to do a loud reading and then paraphrase it as we go. And finally, we will look at some technical, that is, literary devices in the poem, right? So let's look at the poet, Walt Whitman, who wrote this poem. So, Walt Whitman was an American poet and he was also an essayist and a journalist. And he was born in 1819 and he died in 1892. Now, this period in America saw a lot of political and social upheaval. This was the period of the Civil War, the American Civil War. So, Walt Whitman was a witness to the kind of structural changes which his society and which people around him or the socio political scene around him was undergoing. And that was majorly reflected in his works. Now, Walt Whitman is primarily identified as a humanist. Now, what is a humanist? A humanist is someone who believes in social justice, who believes in social equality. So, Walt Whitman, his thoughts, his works, his political affiliations, his ideologies reflect a standpoint where he stood for a society that would treat everybody equally. Now, the America of his times was ridden by the evil of racism. Blacks were slaves and whites were masters. So you had these slaves working in plantations. And then, of course, you had Abraham Lincoln, the president of America, who was majorly instrumental. He played a very crucial role in uh, the struggle towards an egalitarian, a race-free society. Now, even today, America is not entirely a race-free society, or we can't say that it is a society where racism does not exist. But now there there is a kind of there's a society which has a unified structure, which has a unified vision, and Abraham Lincoln was the person who was majorly instrumental in bringing about this change, to breaking the status quo and in fighting for the rights of the blacks. Now, this did not go down well with the people of his times, and Lincoln was assassinated. He was killed in the year 1865, and it is significant because Whitman came up with this poem in the same year, and the poem was meant as an elegy. It was a tribute to this brave and inclusive president, right? This visionary president. So, Whitman, in many ways, is one of the most prominent literary figures of American literature. And he has also been called the father of free verse. He was the one who used the free verse extensively in his works, and he did a very good job of it. But his work, like I was saying, remained throughout very controversial. It was both accepted and rejected, particularly his poetry collection, Leaves of Grass, because it looked at a society which was very futuristic, a discrimination free society, a society which would be free, which would give equal space to all kinds of thoughts and opinions and ideologies, which was not very easy for people of those times to digest. And this particular collection of poems, which he came up with, was a work which was an attempt at reaching out to the common person. So it was like this great American epic, because we have to realize that America was a new country, right? It was a country of settlers. Of course, you had the Native American Indians who were already uh, living in pockets, in tribes, in their own respective tribes in America, but vast stretches of America were empty. It was empty land, and you had the Europeans moving from Europe and settling down in America. So they didn't have a literature of their own, epics of their own, music of their own, so to speak. So Whitman came up with this Leaves of Grass as America's very own epic. And it was not an epic as in the conventional sense of the epic, because it did not have that classical approach. It was egalitarian in its outlook. It wanted to strike a chord with the common person on the street, right? So that was a little about Whitman, his political affiliations, his ideological positioning. Now let's look at the poem and the context. So I think I've already given you a little bit of the context, where we've already seen how this poem was written in the same year as uh, now Abraham Lincoln, the year when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, and it expresses deep anguish and grief on the part of the poet, because throughout the poem, he considers Lincoln, he looks up to Lincoln as a father figure. He looks upon Lincoln as the father of the American nation, and now that father is no more, and Americans are orphaned. The father who has to show America, give America a direction, a path, is no more. So that's what the poem is about. So the poem also expresses this deep and very tragic irony of the nation losing its leader in the journey of its struggle. So the nation has gone through a very tumultuous, turbulent period, and it has emerged as this new nation with new values, with a new society at the end of the struggle. But ironically, the person who navigated this journey, the person who brought the nation to this point, is no more with the people. So this is an elegy on Abraham Lincoln, and an elegy is a genre of poetry which is written on a person who is no longer alive. So it can express deep admiration for the person. It can also express profound grief for the person. Now, let's look at the poem. We'll do a loud reading so that we get a feel of the poem. And as we go along doing the loud reading, we can also look at paraphrasing the poem and trying to understand what the lines mean, what the language means, and what message the poet is trying to give us. Right. So, this is how the poem starts. O Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship has weathered every rack. The prize we sought is won. The port is near, the bells are here, the people all exulting, while follow eyes the steady keel, the vessel grim and daring. But oh heart, 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 oh the bleeding drops of red, where on the deck my captain lies, fallen, cold, and dead. So you must be wondering, we are looking at an elegy on Abraham Lincoln. So, who is this captain and where's this ship coming from? So, let me tell you, this is the central metaphor of the poem. A metaphor is a kind of symbol, right? An implied comparison. So, if we look at the ship stands for the American nation, and the captain stands for Abraham Lincoln. So, and what is the narrator doing in these opening stanzas? The narrator is lamenting, mourning the captain's death. So the ship is arriving at the shore. In other words, the American nation is arriving. It, it's, it's, it's in the process of a new birth. It has reached its destination, which is a free society, right? An equal society. But unfortunately, this American ship nation, as it's heading towards the shore, there are celebrations on the shore. People are waiting to welcome this new nation, to welcome this new ship. But alas, the captain of the ship. Now, you know what a captain does on a ship, right? The captain is the one who directs the ship to the shore. The captain is the one who directs his crew members to take the ship to the shore. And if you know the kind of contract the captain of a ship enters, uh, he or she, the captain, has to protect the ship and the people on the ship at all costs, even at the expense of their life, as in the captain's life. So the captain, if need be, should be able to give up his or her life, but the captain cannot abandon the ship. The captain cannot leave the ship directionless. The captain has to be there on the ship, navigating till his or her last breath, till her last dying breath. And finally, so the captain's duty is to see the ship safely to the shore. So you can imagine why the poet must have chosen this metaphor of the captain, of a captain. It's very obvious because the poet is trying to equate Abraham Lincoln's responsibility, his commitment, his uncompromising dedication to the cause of building a new nation state to that of the captain who navigates a ship through rough weathers, through turbulent sea waters for days on end, where there is no sign of land, where there's no sign of any kind of coast, and still the captain goes on undeterred. So, the opening lines of the poem, when they say, "Oh, captain, my captain, our fearful trip is done." So, look at the use of the word fearful. Clearly, it has not been an easy journey. The ship has weathered every rack. What is weather? To weather means to tolerate, um, to endure, to go through. So the ship has endured every struggle, every kind of attack, every kind of problem, and the prize, the reward that we all were waiting for. We, as in the people who are on that ship, the people who are working for the captain, the people who want to be a part of this journey. So that journey has been a rewarding journey. We have won the prize of the journey. The port is near, so I can see the port. We've we're going to hit shore in a moment. The bells I hear, so I can hear the bells, bells of celebration or bells that announce the ship's arrival. The people are exulting, they are exultant, they are celebrating, they are jubilant, they are full of joy, and they're just so excited to yeah, welcome their captain. While while follow eyes the steady keel, the vessel grim and daring. So people's eyes, they are hooked on to the ship, right? And the vessel, the ship itself is quite a formidable presence, a huge ship, but it's a serious ship. Why is it serious? Because the captain is dead, right? So that's the tragedy that has happened on the ship, which people on shore are not aware of. So which the narrator says, but oh heart, heart, heart. So look at the frantic expression, repetition of the word heart 3 times. But oh heart, heart, heart. Oh, the bleeding drops of red, right? So, how are these? Uh, what are bleeding drops of red? It's as if my heart is bleeding. It's drip. My heart is dripping with blood. I'm that heartbroken. So it's hyperbole. Hyperbole is when you exaggerate something. So it's not literally as if uh, this narrator is having a heart attack or his heart has just exploded and blood is spurting from his heart. It's just a kind of an expression, a poetic expression, which describes how painful it is for him to have lost his captain. Where on the deck my captain lies. So there's this open space on the ship, on a ship, which is called the deck. So his captain is lying on the deck. It's a sudden death. It gives us that idea, right? Lincoln didn't die a natural death. He was assassinated. He was killed. It was a political assassination because of the fight he fought. There were many people who were unhappy with his fight. Something similar, like that of Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhiji was not, he did not die a natural death. Just like he was assassinated, Lincoln was assassinated because of the truth he believed in, because of the society he envisioned, because of the decisions he made, and as the president of the United States, right? So it was a sudden death, and it's as if the narrator can't believe that this is happening in front of his eyes. And he says, where on the deck my captain lies, fallen, cold, and dead. So, fallen. He was standing one moment, he's fallen the next. So, he's not saying my captain has been ill or my captain has been incapacitated in some way. No. So, one moment the captain was giving directions, and the other moment he's suddenly dead. And it's such a shock. The narrator is in a state of shock and he doesn't know how to face the people on the shore, and he's still processing it, and his heart is just going out to the captain. He can't accept the loss, and to the people. So fallen, cold, and dead. So as if the captain has been struck, he's been struck with a weapon or with a blow. He has been struck by a blow and he's just lying there, cold and dead. So that's the first part of the poem for you.